All right. Well, hello, Art 10. We're going to take a quick look at what's going on this week. So, we left off last week on, basically like finalizing ideas for our project, going into some examples, looking at Humboldt, basically Eureka, right, and getting some ideas from some murals. This week, we're actually going to start to go into our critique. And then I'm going to have you jump into looking at an artist that used to be like the lead for Instagram, Ian Spalter. And then I'm going to have you work with this exercise. Keep in mind, like, it's easy to overdo it on the exercise, so make sure you time yourself. But you're kind of going with the monogrammed initials using negative space. And so I'm going to run you through that. We have an option of a sketch temper for your sketchbook. And with that one, it's kind of, I'm going to just go over the spirit of like how a drawing challenge works, because you'll use this for your, I'll be releasing some for your extra credit. And so I'll give you a little more info on that. The project then over the next 3 weeks is going to be working with shape. So we're going to be shifting gears away from line. I'm going to start to think about shape, both positive shape, positive space, negative space, and you're going to have a few exercises that relate to that. I feel like your reading is missing, so I'm going to push that to next week, and then we'll revisit that, and I'm going to try to spread these out, because I feel like we should have a little bit of a like discussion, get an idea, get acquainted with like thinking about design and thinking about how we can utilize positive and negative space. So going over the module, so we'll start out, like we have a regular Zoom session, right? We're mostly focusing on like design strategies, and then also like talking about work, right? That's sort of our focus. I'll update the date on here, but this should be for the 21st, right? All right, so let's go to the next portion of the module. We're going to be, for our Zoom discussion, we're actually doing part of the critique, right? So anything like 15 minutes at the beginning, if there's anything you feel like we need to go over, I'm splitting you into groups of roughly 4, maybe 4, might be 5. You're going to have roughly 5 minutes for like the intro, because it'll be a group you may not have worked with yet. So we'll do a little exercise on like, if you were the president of the US of A, right? Like what would be your first art directive for every city? Like in every city of the United States, I would like to see X. And then we'll be working with roughly about 20 to 30 minutes with those same groups. I'll bring you back, and then we'll go into be prepared to show your work. So you're going to have to be able to share your screen with your work, and each one of you might give each person about a minute or two, and then you talk about that. Well, actually, talk like a minute or two to do an introduction, right? And then talk about what you found on each one. I'll do check-ins on each of your groups. So I'm going to literally drop into your group at any random time. So I'll wait till you're at a point to pause, check in, see if you need anything or any support, and then we'll go back. I'll reveal to you later like what you need to do in order to receive participation points for that day. And if time allows, we'll do a little show and tell of that project one. There's some really cool stuff, the basic really nice designs that came out of this project. So I think you should commend yourselves on the work that you invested. Okay, so what we're doing for our critique, as we scroll down, what I'd like you to do is just to focus on, this page is actually a placeholder, and it's just giving you prompts for the actual critique. Your critique is going to be held in 2 different areas. One is going to be in the online section, so there's like the work you got to do before we have our meeting. And then during our Zoom session, we're going to apply some of this critique in like small groups. So you will need to talk within each of your groups. I will be bouncing around, right? Like I said before, I'm going to be bouncing around between each of the rooms, see if you get, if the group's stuck anywhere. So just make sure that you are utilizing that time efficiently. What you're going to see here is before the Zoom session, go back to the I'm looking for it. Here's the link, Project 1, Part 2. And make sure that you give your introduction, right? Like, what do people need to know about your work? Like, what came out best? What needs improvement? Where do you feel like you are? What solution to design problems did you come up with in working with this assignment? All of you in your group are going to need this, so you have time to read each other's introduction and then be able to respond to that. And what you're going to do is you're going to collectively give me that interaction. I would like to see collectively back in a written form. So I'll tell you where to post that don't do that yet. This won't happen until after our Zoom session. So I think that's about it for this one. So make sure everyone has that introduction. During our Zoom session, I'll go ahead and help to facilitate the critique. And let's go on to the next one. So I'll need to get out of here. All right, so we're on module 5, and then that was our critique. So I have these 2 sections in there so you can go back and forth. And then our actual, like, what are we doing this week aside from Zoom is you're going to be watching this short video. Go from the timestamps from the very beginning and stop around 20. If you find it interesting, feel free to continue watching it, but you really only need to watch the first 20 minutes. So what I'd like you to do is I want you to read these 3 prompts before the video starts. So scroll down. What is UX versus UI? Feel free to look it up and then also explain what are the differences between the two. So we're talking about, for each of these should be around a paragraph, 100 to 150 words. Don't do 80, don't do 50, don't do 300. For the what influences did Ian Spalter have that can inform his artistic style? So how do you respond to how he approaches design? And then I'd like you to tell me an interesting fact from the movie that you walked away with, like hearing him speak about being, a designer and like constantly modifying his craft. What is it that appeals to you in thinking about your own process as an artist? And that doesn't matter if you're, whether you're fine art or commercial art focused for your education. Like what's in this video definitely applies to the artistic process and the creative process. The second exercise that we have is I'm going to have you work with like monogrammed initials using negative space. So this actually does have a pretty direct visual outcome. If you look at this initial image, that's kind of what we're doing. The negative space is the space around the A, and then you're not going to do any details on your letter at all. It is just going to be plain white paper, right? So keep that in mind. Try not to do any sort of details for your lettering. You'll see on these ones as well, like this is more of like a direct like how to. So I have this, this website, if you go to, how to letter, she basically walks you through a step-by-step, right? So that's sort of my take for you. It should look like this. And then you'll notice the sort of resources she's using is looking at, typographic books and then modifying that according to what the style is. So I have a couple of those, some places to get some ideas for fonts. There's Adobe fonts here. There's lettering for commercial purposes, and this is like some really cool, like if you're into like sign lettering and that sort of like hand done signs. I had a resurgence, I would say in the past 10 years, there's been a resurgence of sign painting, and you'll notice that, like when you go to like the cool hipster coffee place, right? They're gonna have like these hand decorated signs, and you'll see that a lot, especially in like the food and like micro brews, like all these sort of like customized craft, specialized retailers are often pushing this sort of like hand lettering or hand done signage. So that's sort of, it's a skill set that will work for you whether you're in fine arts or commercial. It's just kind of good to be able to see that positive space and negative space. So just keep in mind your letter is absolutely 100% white, nothing drawn on it. You're going to draw the background in order for us to see those letters. So it might be your initials, so that would be a good place to start. So for Eric, I might do ES, right? Or I could just do the E, or I can just do the S for Sanchez. So kind of play with that, and it doesn't have to be flowers. You can pick any sort of like a pattern or illustration that speaks to you as a person. So I'd say let some of your personality come out, and that is what I'd like to see. So the concept of a drawing challenge is that you don't get to choose the prompt, right? So the spirit of it is that you do a drawing or a doodle every day, and then they give you prompts for 30 days, and then you on each day. So like if today is the 20th, Monday, September 20th, oh, my prompt is fish. Okay, you don't get a choice. Whatever day you choose this, so if everyone waits till Sunday, we're gonna see a lot of seashells, aren't we? But if if you see something there like, oh, I'm gonna wait till the 23rd, post it on the same day, right? So if you do have one of these, ideally post it to here on the same day that you do the drawing. So time yourself, make sure that it's in that 2 to 3 hour range. If it's 30 minutes, you got to add more to the timer. If it's 4 hours, it would definitely stop, right? So time yourself, make sure you're taking a break every hour for 10 minutes, come back and refresh your eyes. Once that's done, right, go ahead and post it. For extra credit, the thing that I'll add as a secondary layer is if you post it to social media, you can receive an extra point or two. I can't quite remember what the point scale is, but I want to say it's 1 point for the drawing and another point for posting it, and you can do that up to 3 times. And usually it's a shorter timeline. I think it's in the hour to 2 hour range, but you could get like 6 points extra credit just for doing 3 drawings. So it'll be something that I'll have, especially for the Inktober that's coming up. And Halloween's coming up, so there's probably going to be some cool themes for drawings on that. I did put in project 2, and like I said, this semester I'm restructuring how we have like parts for my part 1, part 2, and part 3 for the projects. Essentially what you want to walk away with is part 1 will be due Wednesday, September 29th. That's getting ideas for the project. Part 2 is the actual project, and this one is working with a cutout sheet of Bristol paper. So please watch the videos, because I have a lecture on shape, and then I have some mathematical art by M.C. Escher, who didn't see himself as a artist, saw himself as like, I'm a mathematician. We're practicing zero waste design. So your part 1 is going to be concept sketches, and that'll be your exercise for next week, one of your exercises. Your part 2 is going to be, you're essentially doing this. So if you got the kit, you got that 19 by 24 inch sheet, you're going to use the entire sheet, right? And you can't throw anything out. If you need a piece of black craft paper, I do have some here at the campus, so you can come in and pick it up, but I'm going to coordinate with Cesar and then my schedule to see what times are available. So if you can let me know at the next Zoom session, if you need this, when can you come in and pick it up? We'll make sure someone's here. On certain days and times, so I can do like some evening, some midday. I can also line it up with when we're doing our class and do my class from here, and then you can come by and pick it up right after, or that sort of thing, or before, right? So going into this, I'm trying to think what else you might need to know. We're going to be playing with mirroring. So talking about balance, right? We had that first exercise with balance. We're mirroring an image and seeing how something looks optically, both as black, as a black background with the white shapes on top, and then as a white background with black shapes on top. And the concept is that you're utilizing every piece. So if you see on this design where things are folding out with the hands, every piece in there is mirrored. So it's cut out, and then that piece of paper is reused. Here's some examples of past student projects. So as long as you're using every piece, that works, right? You can kind of see how the paper here was used and reused in the design. So you can use this sort of like, this is, I'd say, out of the box. But if done right, we can work with that. This one's a really good design of just showing everything's purely like folded out, right? So we have some that are mirrored by hemisphere, meaning like left and right, top and bottom. So you have to think about your page orientation, or if you're going to do it with this style where the sheets in the middle have slightly different directions for that. And the concept is your black page is in the middle, and then it folds out from there. So you have kind of like 3 orientations you can work with. One is mirroring top and bottom, or left and right, and then the other one is folding it out from the center out, right? So you're kind of mirroring it on all 4 sides. So that's sort of the 2 different concepts that you have to work with. That pretty much wraps up our week, and so I'll leave you with that. All right. I look forward to talking with you and seeing your project this week. All right. See you soon.